Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. Welcome to the fifth and possibly final review for this year's Summer Backlog Challenge. This time I'm looking at Dragon Quest Treasures, which is the longest game I have finished, and also the one I started playing the earliest. I have mainly been playing during my commute home from work, which has been somewhat sporadic of late due to train strikes, but last week I finally managed to defeat the end boss. Does Dragon Quest Treasures shine? Well, for a while, but before long it starts to lose its lustre. When you first set out on your journey with Eric from Dragon Quest XI and his sister Mia, it's all very colourful and exciting. The vibrant graphics really come to life on the OLED Switch, and the game retains the same sense of whimsy and wonder that is present in all of the mainline Dragon Quest titles. Roaming through the environments for the first time and hearing all the familiar Koichi Sugiyama tunes from past games in the series is a treat initially. Fast forward some 20 or so hours later, however, and the game becomes a repetitive trudge as you grind out levels and treasures just so you're strong enough to finish off exploring the Snarl dungeon and defeat the last few bosses. Being an amateur treasure hunter is a cool idea for a game and an attractive prospect, but there are so many riches strewn throughout the world, it soon stops feeling special, and instead having to keep going to the same 5 or 6 environments starts to feel like a chore. It doesn't help that combat feels a bit on the basic side, with it being possible to survive most encounters just by mashing away at the attack button. While you can call upon up to 3 monsters that you have recruited into your gang for their special moves, most of the time they aren't really needed, with the exception of boss fights. I did actually enjoy some of the lengthier fights in the back half of the game, as the mechanics require you to work out where each of the boss's weak spots is and exploit it, but this feeling didn't last all that long. During the last few bosses, I was actually underleveled a bit, and I really didn't want to go back to roaming around and getting into random fights and collecting treasure again. I just wanted it all to be over, so the final boss in particular took me over an hour to beat, and to be honest I didn't really expect to be able to do it on my first try, but by staying out of direct combat myself and constantly resurrecting my monster team whenever they went down, I eventually succeeded. Chimera wings, which allow you to walk home quickly from anywhere and are a staple in the Dragon Quest series, are a much rarer commodity in Treasures. The most reliable way of earning some is by completing a series of 5 daily quests. Doing so is rather tedious though, so I was often without any. Having to walk back miles to the nearest train station in order to secure my treasure was a constant pain in the bum. If I wasn't able to call upon my haunted armour friends as a temporary steed to speed up travel for a bit and avoid fights, I would have gone absolutely potty, but thankfully each monster also has an ability like this outside of combat for you to use. In the case of slimes, it's being able to jump much higher than normal, and in the case of flying creatures, you can grab hold of them and glide through the sky for long distances. Tosei have added various gameplay mechanics that were intended to add some excitement and unpredictability to the game, but instead I found them quite annoying. After you have found and collected a bunch of treasures, you will be at risk of being attacked by a rival treasure hunting gang. The longer you stay out in the field, the bigger the risk grows until they finally catch up with you and attack you. Early on they are easy enough to deal with, but the higher level you become, the more challenging these attacks get. Should they defeat you, they do steal your treasure, but you do have a chance to get it back. To do this, you have to trudge to some random remote location that they have fled to and beat the snot out of them. Your home base can also be attacked with similar results. You also end up recruiting various monsters back in your base who serve various functions, such as one who will send out squads of monsters to look for treasure and resources for you. Should you be going for 100% completion, then this would be quite invaluable to you. If not, it's kinda pointless. Finishing the main campaign isn't necessarily the end of the game, as there is more to see and do afterwards. A lot more, in fact. By that point, I had definitely had enough and wanted to move on, however. Maybe if I wasn't trying to get through as many of the 10 games as I could before the summer ends, I would revisit it and do more. If you have played this game and had a different experience from me, so much that you wanted to see and do it all, then that's great. I couldn't be more happier for you. For me though, the whole thing left me feeling pretty exhausted, and ultimately I only deem it to be worth a score of 6 out of 10. If I weren't playing this as part of the Backlog Challenge, and if it weren't filling up time during my commute, I probably would have stopped playing it a lot earlier. It's made me a bit worried for the future of the Dragon Quest spin-offs, Infinity Strash Dragon Quest The Adventures of Dai, and Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince. Hopefully after a bit of a rest, my enthusiasm will be rekindled and I will give them a try. With this episode of the Summer Backlog Challenge, we have successfully hit our targets of finishing 5 games out of the 10 that I selected at the start. Although there is still a bit of time left for me to potentially complete one more before the deadline, I think I'm going to call it there as I still have some work I need to do for Cyberpunk September. I'll still try and get to the rest of the games on the list eventually though. For now though, all that remains is for me to thank you for watching this video and ask if you enjoyed it to consider leaving a like, dropping a comment, subscribing to the channel or sharing on social media.